Welcome back to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
Hey, good morning. What's going on? It's Cody Manning with Blitzalytics.com and Cody Talks NFL. We finally have gotten through week one. Well, not all the way through week one. We got a couple games tonight, but we finally got some real NFL football back. I'm going to go through some three major news topics that I think you guys would want to know about, and then I'll look at the two games tonight and then go through what we saw over the weekend. First things first, obviously you guys already know about, it's the most talked about thing in the NFL right now. Let's just hope that this is the last time I have to talk about this guy besides his on-field performance, which honestly I hope, as a Patriots hater, it's not that great. But to move on, AB has been released by the Raiders. He's signed with the Patriots. Since the last episode of Cody Talks NFL, it came out early on Friday that AB was actually going to play for the Broncos. And then that night, he decided to release a video on his YouTube of recording with him and John Gruden. Who knows if John Gruden truly knew he was being recorded or whatever the report might be on that. Well, right then, people are like, what is AB doing? He just recorded a secret private conversation, which is illegal in California. So technically, you could get in trouble for that. Raiders did void his guaranteed money because they suspended him for his actions against Mike Mayock for getting verbally abusive with him. And then Saturday morning, we wake up to, on Instagram, AB asked for his release. AB posted a thing basically saying he wanted out. The Raiders end up granting that. Now, Jay Glazer did report yesterday that the Raiders actually started as early as Thursday trying to trade him, but obviously because of the drama and the contract he had, that wasn't going to happen at all. And once AB got released, he posted another video of him showing how happy he was. Now, if AB's going to try to get any money against the Raiders for releasing him, he's got nothing in his favor. You can clearly show that he wanted out there the whole time. I'm on the conspiracy theory with everybody else where AB, once he realized that this Oakland thing wasn't going to work out, whether it was early in training camp or even over the last few weeks, he wanted out. It seems like he always wanted to go to New England. Within, an hour or two, he signed a one-year contract, $9 million in guaranteed money worth of $15 million on the year. It's basically a prove-it deal with New England. Obviously, he wasn't able to play last night, but now he can play as early as week 2. We'll see how fast he can get up to date with the Patriots playbook. They do say it's kind of hard to learn, but I think with a player like AB's talent, they'll get him on the field right away. It was a report that came out that the Steelers did decline a first-round pick offer from the Patriots for AB back in March. So it seems like this thing was destined to happen. After we saw last night from the Patriots with AB, right now New England's looking unstoppable, and the Raiders are looking like they don't know what they're doing. They have now sent two, if you look at it, I believe it's 2 third-round and 2 fifth-round picks to Steelers for 2 Steelers wide receivers that are no longer on the roster. That has just been poor decision-making by Oakland. Moving on, Melvin Gordon, the report is now that he is going to hold out from anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. He does have to report back in time so he can accrue the season to go into free agency. After what we saw from yesterday with Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, maybe the Chargers do feel comfortable not paying that money. Maybe they can try to move him. Maybe there's a spot like the 49ers that might need him. Who knows how this situation is going to play out. I still think he probably comes back to Los Angeles and plays underneath the contract. But that's a situation to monitor. Obviously, we'll see how the Chargers running backs continue to play week in and week out. Because at the end of the day, if you guys got eyes on that Colts Chargers at the end of the game, Colts were running it down their throat. They did give up a lead, the Chargers. Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson weren't able to be that bell cow running back that you want in the third and fourth quarter to win. But those guys did help them get that drive to win the game, which I'll talk about later. Last big piece of news is Jacksonville Jaguars. Big quarterback, they brought him on a new contract. He's got a broken clavicle. He's actually having surgery today. There's no timetable on when he will be back, but the report is it could be at least up to 2 months. So he's expected to miss majority of the season. If the Jaguars season is not going good, who knows if they try to even rush him back, especially with that type of money that they're playing, especially with a clavicle injury. Usually that's something you can re-injure pretty quickly. And as of right now, Gardner Minshew, the rookie, who did look solid in replacing him yesterday, will be the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, moving on to tonight's games. The first game we're going to see is the Texans are traveling to New Orleans. There's been no major news with this, with both teams going into tonight's matchup. With the Texans, Kiki Kuti has always been expected to miss this game. He's questionable with the ankle injury. Their first-round pick, Titus Howard, who's playing guard now, is questionable with a finger injury. No major names with the Saints as far as an injury report. How I think this is going to go, I honestly think the Saints are going to get after Deshaun Watson. They're going to frustrate him all night. It's going to be a good game because Watson does have that big playmaking capability. He still has, Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, and he also has Duke Johnson out of the backfield now as a passing threat. So I think this could be in a shootout potential, but for some reason, I think the Saints win this by like 10 points. I think that eventually Drew Brees moves the ball down the field. It's in New Orleans. It's always going to be a loud crowd, especially on a Monday night opening day. I think the Saints handled their business at home. Now moving on to the nightcap of the Monday night opener, Denver's traveling to Oakland. I want people to kind of enjoy this. It's going to be the last time probably the Raiders are open. Yeah, it will be the last time the Raiders are playing a game, Monday night game in Oakland. It'll probably be the last time. Because now, keep in mind, the reason why I'm saying probably right now is because I probably should have did some better research, but I assume this is the Raiders' only Monday Night Football matchup of this year. And Oakland, this will be the last time that we'll see on a Monday night game that baseball field too. So after they move to Las Vegas, we'll see no more stadiums, baseball fields. I'm pretty happy about that. As far as news injuries, the Broncos are still going to be missing their best linebacker, Todd Davis, with a calf injury. He's doubtful. Their cornerback they brought in, Bryce Callahan, he's questionable with a calf injury. If he does miss, that will be huge. With the Raiders, Gabe Jackson is going to be out with a knee injury. And my wonderful producer did help me out. He did confirm this is the only Monday Night Football game for Oakland. So, yes, last time in the Coliseum, last time we're going to see a Monday Night Football game with a baseball field on it. Thank you, Rob. You're the man. And then a couple of last little bit, like I just mentioned, Gabe Jackson will be out. Their starting lineman. Corey Leggett, their D tackle, veteran D tackle, is questionable with the knee, and which is the more effective one would be J.J. Nelson. He's got a questionable with an ankle injury. So if he's unable to go without Antonio Brown, it'll be interesting to see how this passing attack works, because now they're going to be out two of the wide receivers that they planned on having for the opening game. Only other major news outside of news injury was Keelan Doss, the Hard Knock star, who is originally from Oakland. He was going to stay in Jacksonville after the AB news. Obviously, I'm sure that was more of him being upset that Oakland let him go. Well, Oakland came back yesterday with a better offer. Now he's coming back to the Raiders, so he will be able to help out their passing attack starting in week 2. Now, how I think this game's going to go, honestly, I know the Raiders players have came out and said that they've been focused, as a team. Even though everybody thinks there's drama going on, there's not drama going on with the team unless AB was at practice. I'm not buying that. I think that the AB getting released on Saturday is going to linger over into this game. Probably going to be a slow start. I think the Broncos defense is going to get after Derek Carr, force him into interceptions. I think Joe Flacco will put together a solid game. It's a young, fast defense that Oakland has, so it's not like they're going to be bullying around the Broncos offense by no means. I think the Broncos win this pretty easily, and I would say about by a touchdown. I could see that happening. And then moving on. Since the Thursday night game, I know with the Cody Talks NFL guys, I want to talk about all 32 teams as much as I can. There's been no news, no injury updates since the Thursday night game for the Chicago Bears or the Packers. I will give my thoughts on how they'll be looking for their weekend game coming up for week 2. But if you guys want any feeling on how I thought they performed, please go back to the Friday episode and tune in for that. Moving on to our action that we saw from Sunday, will end up being a pretty good game. The LA Rams beat the Panthers 30-27. Eric Weddle had to actually leave the game. Christian McCaffrey looked like, from what I saw, tried to jump over him, and I think he clipped him with a part of his cleat, if I understand that right, and he left with a laceration to the head. He was bleeding all over. It was ridiculous. Other than that, there was no major injuries to note from that game. The Rams, they're kind of suspect on offense, but they were able to put up some points. Todd Gurley actually did go over 100 yards total between his passing yards and running yards. Malcolm Brown had a couple touchdowns. Other than that, with the Panthers, Cam looked a little shaky, like he was off. It's just that it was a Christian McCaffrey show over there. The offense ran through him just like we've been expecting all summer. The Panthers defense was looking good as well. So let's just keep in mind, the Rams are coming off a Super Bowl run. The Panthers did compete with them to the end. So that shows they got a good team. We'll see how they'll be able to respond from this loss. As far as the Rams, they do have some things they need to work out, it looks like, on their offense. Their defense could do some work. Corey Littleton did look good. Other than that, I think the Rams did what they had to do on the East Coast with an early game. They came out with a win. No matter how much they won by, they won. And the Panthers should feel good about themselves because they did take the defending NFC champs to the end. Moving on, the Eagles barely, which was a big surprise because they were actually losing by quite a bit halfway through this game. The Eagles barely squeaked out a win against the Redskins, 32-27. With that game, before the game, AP was a healthy scratch. That did happen, which I didn't really agree with, especially when Darius Guice got a little banged up at the beginning of the game. And the report was that the veterans were very upset over that. And it's a situation to watch going forward. And obviously AP wasn't going to be happy with that as well. Now, it didn't show, though, at the beginning of the game. Redskins came out balling. Case Keenum was actually looking surprisingly good. Jonathan Allen did get banged up for the Redskins. He had to leave the game. He has a sprained knee. He is now week to week. Malik Jackson, he has a foot injury for the Eagles, and he had to get carted off. He said it wasn't that bad, but he is in a boot. So usually if a player's in a boot, it's going to show that they're going to be missing some time. As far as the Redskins, their defense I thought looked great. They always are going to have a tough defense. I was more surprised on the offense was able to put up the ball down the field, but is that more of maybe showing that the Eagles secondary is not that great? That's something I wanted to watch for going forward. Carson Wentz looked a little shaky at the beginning of the game, and then we saw the Carson Wentz that I thought we were going to see all along. He looked great for the remaining of the game, and if you listen to the Friday show of Cody Talks NFL, and if you've been listening to the Fantasy Football Hot Seat, we've been saying Deshaun Jackson was going to go off week 1. It was just destined to happen, and he did. Eagles got a big, crucial divisional win to start the season. Redskins can at least say they took the Eagles to they only lost by 5, but we'll see how that team responds, especially with the whole report that the veterans were upset with the AP being a healthy scratch. Moving on with the Buffalo Bills and the Jets, the Bills barely squeezed out a win, 17-16 against the Jets. The Jets actually, they had good control of that game throughout the game. I thought they were going to win, but they could just never put it together in the second half. Sam Darnold and Josh Allen had a up and down game. Sam Darnold was looking good at the beginning of the game, kind of fell off towards the end. Josh Allen had a very rough start. I believe he had 4 turnovers in the first half, but then he was able to put things together, including that big crucial touchdown, game-leading touchdown score to John Brown. And then Devin Singletary, he had no carries at all in the beginning of that. I think he did in the first half, and then he finally got going in the second half. And he definitely should earn some reps going forward because he was a big part of why the Bills were able to come back. Because I believe he ended up getting close to 100 yards. by the end of the game, even though he didn't get any majority of the carries to start the game. As far as injuries, Bills, no major news injuries to note. The Jets, Quinnen Williams, their first round pick from this year, he actually left with an ankle injury. And C.J. Mosley actually left with a groin injury, which was a major part of why the Bills came back, because C.J. Mosley was dominant in the first half. He had that pick six for the Jets. He was all over the field. He was being that playmaker that they paid him to be. But as soon as he left with a groin injury, that defense looked lost. And that's when Josh Allen and company were able to take control and get back into the game, and eventually taking control of that game and winning it. So yeah, Bills, they looked bad at the beginning, but they did win. Like I mentioned, that's been always one of my sleeper teams. The Jets were more surprising, but the Jets showed that with Le'Veon Bell, they are able to move the ball. Le'Veon Bell did look good too. That's one thing I forgot to note. He had a pretty good overall game. He played every snap, so it'll be interesting to see how that Jets offense looks going forward. But if C.J. Mosley is going to miss any time with that groin injury, especially also Quinnen Williams, that Jet defense could be really bad over these next few weeks. Moving on, the Atlanta Falcons and Vikings game. The Vikings actually won 28-12. They were actually up 28-0, and then Matt Ryan got a couple garbage points because I reference fantasy, but it was the time was basically coming to the end. He got a couple touchdown drives. Otherwise, the Vikings had complete control over this game. What's funny is Kirk Cousins only threw the ball 10 times, and the Vikings were still able to win 28-0. That Vikings defense looks so good. Matt Ryan threw a couple picks. Falcons just didn't look like themselves. I thought they were going to play a lot better. I thought this game was going to be a lot closer than it was. Their first round pick for Atlanta, actually got hurt during the game. Their center, Chris Lindstrom, and it's believed that he has a fractured foot. So he's going to miss some time. That's not ideal for their line that was already looking very average yesterday against the Vikings defensive front. And then the Vikings, their cornerback, Mackenzie Alexander, he actually had to leave with a dislocated elbow. He's probably going to miss a few weeks, but blessing in disguise is Mike Hughes, their cornerback. He's going to be returning shortly. And Mackenzie Alexander right now is just the third best cornerback on the team. So they have depth at that position. So they'll be able to make do until he can come back through the halfway point and hopefully make that playoff push. The Falcons, I'm very concerned over the offense and the defense right now. Now, we'll see how this offense can perform when they're not going against one of the better elite defenses in the league. But that defense, though, it was not looking good on the running game. Dalvin Cook ate them alive. That's another guy that looked great yesterday. If the Vikings are going to put together a playoff run, it's going to be because of Cook, and they need to have him stay healthy. But yeah, Falcons I'm worried about. Vikings, I'm really loving their stock going forward. Moving on, probably the best and most pathetic performance in a game we've ever seen from two different teams. The Ravens had their best game ever. They dropped 59 points on the Dolphins, and the Dolphins only managed to get 10 points. Lamar Jackson was throwing the ball over the field. I'm going to give him I had to eat crow. I was one of the guys that doubted if he could be a better thrower at the next level. He was connecting on some deep balls with Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown had one hell of a coming out party for his first rookie game. But let's take this with a grain of salt. It is going against a terrible Dolphins defense. Now, the Dolphins, and when I say that too, the Dolphins defense has Xavier Howard, Mika Fitzpatrick, and some other playmakers within that secondary. But the report came out that several Dolphins players went to their agents and they want out of Miami. They want to get out of Miami. That's how bad it is. I was always a believer that the front office were setting up things to tank, but the report was that the players believed that the coaching staff wanted to win and were going to do anything to win. But then after that game, they felt like the coaching staff really didn't come with a good game plan, and that they set the team up to fail that day. So how many were those passes kind of set up for Lamar Jackson by the coaching staff? That's a little bit of conspiracy theory. But Lamar Jackson had a great game at the end of the day. The Dolphins had a terrible plan. Their overall roster is just bad, and I feel bad for any Dolphins fans that paid for season tickets this year. Maybe the team should give you guys a discount on next year's tickets if they're tanking for the future. Only other major news besides like Lamar Jackson being a star on that day, which this is actually pretty crucial, is Jimmy Smith did leave with a knee injury, their cornerback for the Ravens. He's having an MRI today, so stay tuned on what happens with that. They still got some cornerback depth there with Carr and Humphreys, and they obviously got Earl Thomas in the back as a safety. So that's something to monitor, but the Ravens look good, and compared to how the rest of the AFC North looked this weekend, the AFC North might be the Ravens. Let's watch and see how they perform next week. Moving on, the Kansas City Chiefs traveled to Jacksonville, and that was a very interesting game. Not because of the play on the field, more because of all the injuries happened. Nick Foles did get hurt, which I already talked about. Also on Kansas City's side, Tyreek Hill was hospitalized with a shoulder injury. He's expected to miss a few weeks. I don't really think that offense will miss a beat. We saw after he went out, Sammy Watkins had a big day. Sammy Watkins is showing what he can be when he's healthy. So let's just hope he can stay healthy for the Chiefs. And as long as he's healthy when Tyreek's out, they still got Travis Kelce. We'll see what McCole Hardman can do with his absence, and their running game was looking good with the combination of Damian Williams and LaShawn McCoy too. So the Chiefs are going to still be Chiefs. They easily won that game. But I do want to say, though, with when I mentioned Gardner Minshew earlier with the Foles injury, he looks solid. Now, he's solid because of his play? I'll give him some of that. But the one thing I was always worried about with the Chiefs defense is their cornerback play. So he put together pretty good drives throughout the second half, and they only lost by 2 scores, and they suffered an injury to their franchise quarterback. So I'm curious to see how this Chiefs will perform against a better quality quarterback play in the future. Another thing with the Jaguars is after the Cody Talks NFL Friday episode, their starting left tackle, Greg Robinson, actually hyperextended his knee. So he had to miss this game as well, and he's expected to miss some time. I believe he's considered week to week. So the Jaguars don't have their starting left tackle, and they have Gardner Minshew at quarterback. This could be very bad for the Jaguars offense moving forward. That's something to watch. And another thing to watch, too, is if I thought the Jaguars defense was going to play the Chiefs a lot harder than they did, there's a lot of holes in that pass defense. So I don't know what's going on in Jacksonville. They better correct things fast. Otherwise, it feels like that front office and that coaching staff won't last. That's just how I feel right now. If this continues throughout the season, that hot seat's going to get a lot warmer. Moving on, probably might be the most surprising score of the day. I did not see this coming. I believe most analysts and majority fans didn't see this coming. But the Titans put a whooping on the Cleveland Browns. No major news injury. I mean, Baker Mayfield left with a wrapped hand, but it's just a bruised hand and maybe a bruised ego as well. Yeah, the Titans, man, their defense is legit. Like, that was the one thing I did say, like, that their defense could help lead them to victories. Marcus Mariota had an up and down day. He did make some good deep field throws, but he also looked very bad at sometimes. So they just put it on him. And Baker Mayfield, I think, threw for 3 interceptions. The Titans defense clamped them down. The running game could never get going. And the biggest thing, too, is what so many people questioned. The people did question if the Browns were going to be good, was the leadership of their head coach, because this is the first time he never had an offensive coordinator position. Now he's a first-time head coach. Could he handle all these personalities? Well, in the first game, the Browns had 18 penalties. That's the most for the Cleveland franchise since 1951. So they got to clean up those penalties if they want to compete forward. They got to figure out that offense, because that offense looked ugly. Nick Chubb couldn't get going. Odell Beckham couldn't get going. I mean, outside that first opening drive when they just marched down the field, it looked bad. And then they were talking about their left tackle ended up kicking a Titans player, got ejected. And the one thing I was preaching upon with those Browns is their Achilles heel was going to be the offensive line. And it's showing in week 1. And if your weakness is showing in week 1, maybe you need to make some trades or do something to figure out that offensive line. Other than that, give it up for the Titans. They put it on the whooping on them. I love Delaney's Walker's quote. He came out, he went all Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were comment. So, hey, give it up for the Titans, and we'll see how the Texans look tonight. Like I said, I think the Saints are going to win. And if the Saints do win, Texans lose, maybe this is the Titans division. But like I said, let's see what Marcus Mariota can do week in and week out, and see if he can stay healthy. But other than that, Titans might be a threat this year. But let's not. Biggest thing with everything, guys, with week one, let's not try to overreact too much. Moving on. The Indianapolis Colts lost in overtime to the Chargers, 30-24. This was a great game. Devin Funchess, he ended up leaving with a broken collarbone. He'll be missing some time with that. Other than that, I was very impressed with Jacoby Brissett. He looked good. Actually, very impressed too with the Chargers' offensive line. Even though missing Russell Okung, they were able to move the ball down the field and hold up the Colts front. Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson did look good for the Chargers. And then Mike Williams actually did leave with a knee injury. I have no further update on that. He never did come back. That's the one note with the Chargers. I did forget to put in my rundown. But yeah, Philip Rivers, he was looking good at the beginning of the game, but then he kind of fell off, which allowed the Colts to make a comeback. Marlon Mack was running all over them, and I very suggest people going to check out this play, but Malik Hooker had the best one-handed interception I've seen in my entire life of watching football. And I'm 31 years old, and my dad had me watching football since I was 2 or 3. So I've been seeing plenty of football. That was one of the nastiest interceptions that actually led the Colts to tying up this game. It went into overtime. The Chargers did get the ball to start the half, and they marched right down the field and got that touchdown. But, I'll give it to the Colts too, man. I really do believe the Colts won the coin toss. It would have been the same result. The Colts would have marched down like they were doing the whole second half and winning the game. Now, as good as Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler were for the Chargers in the beginning of the game, they also kind of fell off, and that running game did fall off in the second half. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if the Chargers do want to go on a long run throughout the season, they're going to need that bell cow type guy to really force the issue in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, they're going to allow teams like the Colts to make a big comeback. Moving forward, this is another surprising game to me. The result was the Cincinnati Bengals barely lost to the Seattle Seahawks, 21-20, and they barely lost with Joe Mixon leaving that game with the ankle sprain. There's early optimism that ankle sprain is not going to be much for Joe Mixon. Seahawks, they did see Nico Thorpe, their cornerback, Will Dissly, their tight end and defensive tackle, Puna Ford. All those guys are players on their starters, and they all end up leaving that game. John Ross, their former first-round pick, had a breakout game. He had a big game against the Seattle Seahawks. They couldn't stop him for whatever reason. Andy Dalton was looking good on the Seattle all day. I think the Bengals were just a surprise in general between the play of their defense and on their offense. Seattle Seahawks, one note, you guys, if anybody's been listening to me speak on anything, I'm a big DK Metcalf believer. Well, he just had the best opening game for a Seahawks wide receiver with 89 yards in history. He beat Steve Largent's record. And the reason why I just remember that is because he showed up in a Steve Largent jersey that day. So it's pretty cool that happened. Other than that, Russell Wilson made the plays in the second half. He had a very slow start, but then he came out, made those plays. He finally found Tyler Lockett on that big touchdown to give them the lead. So Seahawks did what they had to do. I thought they were going to win this game by a lot more, but we'll see. Let's see how this defense gels. Let's see how those injuries come back. And also, I would expect Jadeveon Clowney will have more of a bigger role. He kind of looked tired throughout, just like Khalil Mack did last year when he had his first game after being traded to the Bears. Great in the first half, and then he kind of slowed down because you got to get in football shape. You can be in the best shape of your life off the field, but until you're on that field, you got to be able to use getting banged around and all that type of stuff and taking bumps. Moving on, we just saw the Giants travel to the Cowboys. It was just a butt whooping. Cowboys beat up on them 35-17. I really don't have much to say. That defense looked good for Dallas. Dak Prescott looked really good on that day. Michael Gallup was looking good. Amari Cooper was looking good. That offense was looking good. They were calling some great plays. I mean, if this is the Dallas team we're going to see all throughout the year, I know I crap on Dallas a lot throughout the offseason, mainly because I'm not a biggest believer in Jason Garrett. I always believed in the talent. Still had some questions surrounding Dak, but Dak making me eat crow as far as a week one performance. But this is a team we'll see week in and week out. Dallas and Philadelphia are going to be battling it out throughout the year to win that NFC East. So it'll be something to watch. No major news injuries coming out from either team. The biggest thing, though, is Jerry Jones did say last night a Dak deal is expected soon, which I'm not surprised. They got the numbers from the Jared Goff contract extension, so they know what numbers they're going to be shooting for. And then, of course, Dak puts on a, hey, pay me now before you regret it type game. So I'm sure Jerry's like, all right, if Dak's going to play like this, I can't let him go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl because then I'll end up having to pay him more money. So I'm sure they're going to try to get that deal done as soon as possible. Moving on, San Fran ended up beating the Bucks in Tampa Bay, 31-17. I thought this was going to be a lot closer. I did think the Bucks were going to pull this off. Only major news injury coming out of there was Tevin Coleman. He's expected to miss some time with an ankle injury. For whatever reason, man, you just can't be a San Francisco 49er running back and not get hurt. Matt Breida actually got hurt in that game, but he's like Wolverine, and he always just comes back from his injuries, and he ended up coming back into that game. Mostert looked pretty good for them. Jimmy Garoppolo was very shaky. He did lead them to the victory, but he did throw a pick six. But the probably biggest guy we want to talk about, the biggest elephant in the room, is Jameis Winston. 2 pick sixes. I don't know what to say about this because I did think that Bruce Arians could turn this around. With the Bruce Arians hiring, you would like almost assume that he had a longer leash for this season. But through just game one, I'm like, all right, like looks like it's already time to end this experiment. So I do expect Jameis to play this week. They are going to be playing the Thursday night game against the Panthers, so it's a shorter week. They'll roll with Jameis, but if Jameis throws more picks and turns the ball over on Thursday, do you just pull the plug and move on? Something I threw out there on my Twitter yesterday is do you just whatever you can get for him from Jacksonville? You send him there, like, hey, you guys need a quarterback. We'll take. I'm sorry, guys. He's on the final year of his contract. He's not living up to conversations to expectations. You offer just try to get a 5th round pick. You know, like, do you just 4th round pick? Do you try to get something from him? And do you have to maybe eat the majority of the contract or whatever for this year and ship him off and then go with Blaine Gabbert, who Arians has won with before, or do you go with Ryan Griffin and you just kind of hope you kind of lose out and get a top 5 pick to get a 2-0 or, a Herbert or a Jordan Love or whoever one of these top quarterbacks will be in the 2020 class. That's where I'm thinking with the Bucks. Maybe look for an article coming out on that soon, since I am the Bucks beat writer. But other than that, the defense did look fast with those secondaries. They were able to get that pick six, but they're a young defense. And Jameis is looking bad. I don't like the Bucks looking going forward. But the 49ers, they did squeeze out with the win. Let's give them more credit. I'm not going to just sit here and hammer on how bad the Bucks look because 49ers were able to put together some drives. But I'm still kind of on the fence, too, with Jimmy Garoppolo, even though they did win. He did not look that great. Moving on to the final afternoon game was the Detroit Lions and the Cardinals. No major news injury, and that game ended up in a tie, 27-27, where we already got a tie in week one. I really wish they would just play an unlimited time until there was a determined winner because I hate ties. Other than that, like the Lions had control of this game. This is a game that they lost. They had a big lead throughout the whole entire game. Kyler Murray finally shook off that terrible start. I was kind of giving him a hard time in our Slack chat to Roy Countryman of Blitzalytics because he's a big Kyler Murray fan. But he started looking good. I'll give him credit. He started looking good in that second half. But I just wonder if like this was mainly on the Lions. They called a timeout when they shouldn't have called a timeout, which would have resulted in a play that would have got a first down and resulting in the time going out. I don't know. Matt Patricia, I don't know if he's the guy. They never leaned on Kerryon Johnson like they could have. They should have opened up the passing game more because they were able to move the ball down the field on the Cardinals pass defense. But to be honest, man, these are two bottom five teams to me, and that's why they tied. Like, I think the Cardinals maybe could have won if they got a faster start at the beginning of the game. I'm on the fence still with the Cardinals. The Lions, they're gonna have a long year. That's how they're gonna coach games at the end of the game. That's all I can say on that. Moving forward, last night, Sunday night, Boarfest. The Patriots just whooped the Steelers. I mean, 33-3. There's nothing to say. I thought Ben Roethlisberger looked off last night. That was always kind of expected going into the year that he maybe could regress with his age. The Patriots looked phenomenal. I mean, Tom looked in mid-season shape. Normally we're kind of used to the last 4 or 5 years, like, oh, the Patriots are starting the season slow, and Tom's not looking like Tom. Well, Tom looked like Tom last night. That defense looked like the defense we saw in the Super Bowl last year, and then they're getting Antonio Brown. So, yes, the Patriots are the team to fear right now in the NFL. I really don't got much to say on them. With no major news from the Patriots, but for whatever reason, even though they are getting their butts whooped, the Steelers decided to keep their starters out there throughout the most of the game, and that hurt them. According to the team's website, Marquise Pouncey, Joe Hayden, TJ Watt, and Juju Smith-Schuster all left the game late with injuries. We'll find out tomorrow if those are any lingering injuries, if that's going to be a week to week, but you're talking about 4 core players on that team that could be missing time. And if those guys are missing time, and if Ben Roethlisberger is going to be Ben Roethlisberger, and if James Conner is not, I won't say James Conner is James Conner. We still don't know who James Conner is. Yes, he had played good last year, but everybody expects him to be Le'Veon, but that's not going to happen. So unless James Conner can up his game, and those guys are going to miss a lot of the majority of the upcoming weeks, maybe this is the long year that we kind of all thought could happen for Pittsburgh. We'll have to watch that. Other than that, looks like the New England Patriots are once again the king of the NFL until proven otherwise. And then moving on with tonight, those will be all the games. And then moving on with my prediction for the Thursday night game. This is something I forgot to do on last week's Monday night episode. Tampa Bay is playing Carolina, both coming off losses. But like I mentioned when I was talking about Carolina has something to build upon. They played that Rams offense and that Rams defense very tough. Christian McCaffrey looked amazing. They just need Cam to settle things down, make more accurate throws, get some chemistry going with his wide receivers and with Greg Olsen. That defensive front looked really great for the Panthers. I expect Gerald McCoy is going to try to get I'll go ahead and call it. Gerald McCoy will have at least 2 sacks in this game. They're probably going to force Jameis Winston into turnovers. I think after how Jameis ended that game, I have no trust in the Bucs right now. I just don't. I don't think they have it until proven otherwise by Jameis, or until they insert another quarterback and Bruce Arians rolls with that quarterback. I have no trust in the Bucs right now. I think Carolina handles business at home, and maybe that little theory I have about trading Jameis starts talking, or maybe even happens, or maybe he just gets benched in this game. I think Carolina handles business. I could see them winning by 10+ points on Thursday night. And then always at the end, my wonderful producer, Rob always has a question for me. And by the way, this is always a surprise. So yeah, I love it too. We never talk about it. He asks me a question. Most disappointing performance by a team or a player from week 1. And here's the thing. You know what? Like, I will obviously, like, you could be like, obviously the Dolphins is low hanging fruit, right? But it was more expected of the Dolphins to be bad. You gotta go Browns. the Browns, their defense was so throughout the game. They gave up too many big plays. A.J. Brown had a good game for his first rookie game as well. That's something I didn't mention earlier. That offense was atrocious. Like, everybody had all this hype about the Cleveland Browns, including myself, who thought they were going to be good. I mean, you got Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield. Baker looked really bad all afternoon. He just could never get things going. And if this is the offense we're going to see from Cleveland, they're not going to go to the playoffs. It's going to be a long year. That defense is going to be on the field too much. And when that defense is on the field too much, you're going to be getting tired. Again, I'm not going to sit here and overreact and say after week one that the Browns are done. I still think they got what it takes to win the AFC North. I've always thought this AFC North was going to be a close division, no matter who the winner was going to be. But hey, it has to be the Browns. Like, between Baker Mayfield's performance, where was OBJ? Their running game never got going. Nick Chubb never did anything throughout the day. And then honestly, too, I wish I had the stat numbers in front of me, but like, I thought that defensive front with Myles Garrett and Olivia Vernon were going to get after Marcus Mariota than they did and force more turnovers. So that would be my most disappointing performance by a team, and as a collection of players too. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in for the third episode of Cody Talks NFL. If anybody's got any questions for me, please hit me up on Twitter at Cody Talks NFL. I'll always respond with questions and a response. If I think your tweet is a little dumb, I'll respond in a GIF, because I just don't have time for you on that. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Please check out the Blitzalytics podcast network. Starting this past Friday, my episodes will go on an audio version. If you just don't have time to watch it on YouTube, please go to blitzalytics.com to keep up with all of our articles. And also, too, guys, something I regret not mentioning from last week's episode is we at Blitzalytics have an all-heart charity league going on. It's with fantasy football experts. We have a couple teams representing Blitz, but we also have guys like Zach Moore from Over the Cap. Brad is also from overthecap.com as well. Downtown Rams have some representatives. Marcus Grant at NFL Network is a representative. Aaron Schatz is on there. So basically the premise of the league, guys, is it's all about raising money for charity. So please go to blitzalytics.com/allheart, I believe that's correct, to check that out. There is a Twitter page with that. And, of course, go give all those guys a follow on Twitter. They're promoting their team because they got to raise charity money in order to pick up guys off waivers and stuff like that. So please go check that out. It's for a great cause. Other than that, that's all I got to say. Enjoy Monday night tonight, and Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and to hit that bell icon to stay up to date on all things football.